Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of SaaSy Moms. So, this is the podcast where we talk about everything SaaS, careers, technology, and just sharing our day to day as a mom. And I'm Wendy.
And I'm Anya. By the way, Wendy, when do you think we will stop introducing ourselves?
Let's wait until we hit maybe 100 followers. Is that a good goal?
I think it's achievable goal. Do we assume that by this time everyone will know our names?
Yeah, you know what? I just thought of something really funny. Our first initial is, yours A and I'm W. So it's actually A and W. We have a fast food chain in Canada.
Oh, I never thought about it. That's
Yeah,
true.
it
Yeah.
just dawned on me as we're kind of chatting through this. Anyways, so I know today we're talking about product management, and I'm very, very curious on understanding how do we kind of crack into this path, a career path, because I'm sure a lot of people ask you about it. I know a lot of people do ask me about it as well. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, this episode I think will improve my life because I have a lot of people reaching out to me via LinkedIn with the same question. Hey, Anya, how can I get into the product management? Instead of me repeating myself every time, I can now just share with them this episode and hopefully they will learn a lot.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to hear about it. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got into product management first?
Yes, I grew up in Ukraine and product management 10 years ago was not there was not even understanding that there is a product management as a career. There were just IT companies and there were a lot of project managers. So when I started working in one of the software companies in M&A department, I didn't really work on product management itself, but I was able to build connections with people and they wanted me to work on some projects. So I started launching products for them. And one of the products that I launched, by the way, is still there. And I'm pretty proud that the owners of this project are making money out of this website. But basically, I started learning how to launch a product. What tools do I need to use? How do I explain to engineers what to build? And as I learned a little bit more, and then I launched one of the websites, I realized that, oh, wow, this is so cool. I want to continue launching this type of websites or features as my career. And I did an extensive research and realized that one of the titles for this job is product manager. And this is how I immigrated to Canada because I wanted to get a degree in digital media where I can learn the true product management, true agile, scrum, and everything. So after I finished my degree, guess what? No one still wanted to hire me as a product manager because I quickly learned that in North America, product manager is a senior position, even though the title might not clearly state it.
Yeah.
Even if you work as an associate product manager, it's still a pretty senior position. So I was able to find a job as a business analyst through the connections, and then gradually moved up to become a product owner. It was a telecommunication company here in Canada, but I
Yeah.
wanted something more. I wanted to make more impact. Unfortunately, a product that I worked on was not like a key investment area for this company because when the
Yeah.
company like sells telecommunication, their main investments go into telecommunication, selling
Mm-hmm.
telecommunication, not into digital. So I quickly realized that, okay, in order for me to make an impact, I need to work for a company that does software and sells software as a key business. And I was able to find my current job. It took me a
Mm-hmm.
while, but I was able to do it. And then I gradually moved from associate product manager into product management, and then now as a director of product.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I think it's very similar to, when we chatted even last week about my career journey for product marketing. I think because like in school, we were never really taught the concept of like product marketing, product management. What we do know is like, okay, business analyst, like that's something that I had a course on, not product management, not product marketing. So I think it's like until you get to the workforce and until you kind of figure that out, you actually don't really know what education you need, what are some of the things I need or a skill set that I need, or even be exposed to even this career. I'm actually interested to kind of understand from your perspective. You mentioned PM is a very strategic position, and I believe I mentioned last week as well that product marketing is as well. So it's not your first job. So I'm curious on why do you think that is the case? Why haven't we see people just get out of school where they learn product management and just get in right away?
That's a great question. And there are multiple reasons for this. First of all, product managers manage companies' investments. Let's just look at my role, for example. I manage a team of 4 product managers. So you can assume that I manage roughly a budget of $500,000. However, it's not quite true because my team is responsible for all the decisions and for basically all the work that engineers do. So in reality, I directly manage the multi-million investment of my company because depending on what my team decides, the 30, 40, or sometimes 100 of developers will work on. So we really manage investments, and I always teach my product managers who work with me that today you prioritize this feature, you work with 10 developers. You should assume you now manage a 1 million budget. Are you making a right decision? So this is reason number 1. The second reason is that in SaaS, your digital product is the one that generates revenue, right? So again, because you are making decision, you directly contribute to the success or failure of the entire business. So not only do you manage companies' investments, you also manage the company's revenue that can be hundreds of millions of dollars. So delegating this type of decisions to someone who never had an experience or is fresh out of school might be a little bit risky for businesses. And finally, as you mentioned in episode number 3, PMs, they have holistic knowledge over business. They need to understand money, financial, sales, marketing, and this type of knowledge is very rarely just can be acquired at school. You need to understand it, you need to work with it first before being able to apply it in a real world. So I guess these are the reasons why product management is a pretty senior role for
Yeah.
organizations.
No, I love that perspective. Just kind of seeing it from an investment perspective. Like one of the biggest human resources in any SaaS company, any software company, no doubt is engineering. There's the
Yeah.
platform, there's a lot of that, right? And who decides what their time is spent on? It's product managers. So I love that kind of investment perspective. And I think you mentioned as well, it's like you just need someone that can fully understand the business, not just like the technical, the technical aspects of
Yeah.
products. Because I think that's what people assume. It's like, hey, I learned about product management. I know how to do a roadmap. I know all these things, but it's all those soft skills that you require to understand holistically. I think that's really what sets, a great PM apart. And like you said, it's a huge investment for the company. So we better make it right. So with that, can you tell me what do you think are the top criterias for, a PM to be successful? Because obviously you work with great people and sometimes not so great. So what are some of those qualities?
Yeah, I bet you have seen a lot of product managers come and go. So that's why you're framing the question like that. I mean, to be honest, I do believe that anyone can acquire technical knowledge. When it comes to technical knowledge, you can just go to university or see how things are done and you're good to go. But I might be a little bit provoking here, but I'm a strong believer that personal qualities play a huge role in someone's ability to be the, top class product manager. Personal qualities are really hard to acquire. Just give you an example, like if you have a partner or you are married, sometimes you need to change or adjust towards a certain personality quality. And it's really, really hard. But you do it because you're motivated, you kind of have a family, and sometimes it takes you years to change, right? Same at workplace. But workplace, I think, is even less motivating to change your qualities rather than kind of family. So I do believe that before you choose product management career, you need to evaluate these 3 qualities. Number 1, are you independent thinker? Because very often you will have to be able to trust your hypothesis, test those hypotheses, and prove everyone wrong. Sometimes you will need to prove yourself wrong, but you have to have this gut to do something in order to go against the majority within your organization. Very similar quality to independent thinking, right, is an ability to say no, because ability to say no will allow you to stick to your prioritization decisions. And very often people like employees who are people pleasers and who only know how to cope, let's say, with stress through pleasing people, likely it will be very hard for you to be successful as a product manager because you will just struggle prioritizing and sticking to the decisions and to the company goals. And finally, I think something that is valuable in every profession, including product marketing management, is just ability to think critically. Just don't even want to explain why it is, but I do know that people who think critically usually will be successful because they can tackle any challenge.
We're laughing because we understand.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think one of the things I think you hit on really well is in my personal experience, I have worked with a lot of, PMs that are really good independent thinkers. And I can see it even from the PMM perspective. And the way I see it is like, they can communicate well in terms of what the feature does. More so like talking about the why. I've seen like PMs kind of crumble as I'm asking kind of the hard questions, like the tough questions, potentially like user questions that I potentially need to know. And if they can't think critically and understand it and have those independent thinking, they're just kind of regurgitating information. It is gonna, fall apart, and the value is gonna fall flat. The launch is not gonna be as successful. So I truly can see the effects of those critical skills. So I'm curious though, during the interviews, how do you assess for those soft skills? Because obviously people can say how great they are, and how do you kind of call those out?
Yeah, there are multiple questions that can be asked to assess personal qualities. For example, critical thinking, I usually assess through the assignment. This assignment will be given in relation to some unknown topic or to relation of our company, and just see what person says within their assignment and if they can make logical conclusions. In order to assess if they are independent thinkers or if they can say no, very easy assessment is to challenge a candidate during the interview when they reply to certain questions. If you start challenging them and you see that a person cannot go and cannot continue their logical or if they, sometimes you need to say, you know what, now as you ask this question, I realized that I was wrong. So you also understand, okay, this person will be able to be independent thinker or will be able to say no because they can again, like they can think and they can potentially be not selfish enough to, help, and not selfish enough to make right decisions when it comes to product management.
And I think a huge part of that is like the ego, right? If you're just like, if you have such high ego, you don't listen to other people's like feedback or opinions, and you just, hold your ground without any ground, that's a dangerous position to be in, especially as a PM.
Yeah.
So how about like prioritization and even I think what you mentioned about critical thinking? How do you test for those, or how do you interview for those?
Yes. So in product management, I consider prioritization a little bit of like more technical skill rather than soft skill, because you need to have experience and exposure to to this decision making. I already covered personal qualities. If you think about more technical skills, things that I'm looking for are usually prioritization, handling ambiguity, and influence without direct authority. So for prioritization, again, it's important skill because it will determine your product success and your ability to stick to a goal. The biggest question that I usually ask during interviews will be, you have a lot of requests coming onto your pipeline. You have engineering managers who want to work on tech debt. You have support people who have a lot of bugs. You have executives coming with feature requests. You have your own research. How do you prioritize it? Guide me through your thought process. And if a person mentions business goals, initiative, strategy in response to this question, then I understand that this person will be able to work and prioritize. When it comes to handling ambiguity, this quality is essentially important in building presentations, because very often when you work as a product manager, you are just giving certain concepts or like a one sentence problem that you then need to break up into little pieces and provide a very nice explanation of why certain things need to be done. So the questions, for example, that I can ask is, okay, let's say you have an organization, you were asked to increase average revenue per user. How are you going to do it? And if person can explain to me step by step how will they do it, it means that a person can break down this big ambiguous problem into actionable steps. And finally, influence without direct authority is important because, as I mentioned, you make decisions. Engineering team will work under your guidance, right? So the question would be, how do you handle resistance from stakeholders who don't report directly to you, right? Or give me an example of time when you successfully change someone's mind, right? Again, you need to know what experiments to make, how to design them, how to collect data, how to look at analytics, extract data in order to be able to make those decisions and influence people. So influence without direct authority is really a technical skill because it is heavily related on your ability to work with data.
Yeah, no, this is really interesting. And I think I'm actually curious to, for people that are wanting to get to product management, obviously there's schoolings, there's a bunch of things that they can get into. But like, even the question that you ask, you were asked to increase the average revenue per user. I don't think like you can get a degree in product management answering that question. So how do people even get into product management? What are the skill sets? How do they learn?
Yes, you can't learn true prioritization at school. You can only have experience in order to prioritize. And you definitely don't need a full bachelor's degree in product management. In fact, I don't think the one exists.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my recommendation would be to just have a holistic degree in business, economics, digital media, and then you can do the continuous learning education where you just have courses for product managers. For example, Stanford Online has product management program, or Coursera has a ton of certification. This will just get you into terminology, but again, it's not a real prioritization skill. So something that I usually tell people to think about is to think about their day-to-day activities and see how they prioritize and see if out of a lot of responsibilities, they can make their days effective through prioritization. This can be a very nice practice to
I love that tip.
prioritization.
So you're telling everybody that wants to be a PM to be a mom.
Exactly, yes. How did you handle your maternity leave? What did you do and what were the outcomes achieved?
Yeah, that's funny. So well, not everyone, wants to be a mom. So
Yeah.
how do someone that wants to get into PM after completing all these things or
Yeah.
what they could do, but they have no experience. So how do they get in or where do they start?
One of the great starts will be to search for a business analyst position, because when it comes to business analyst, you don't need a lot of decision making. You mainly write requirements, work with engineering team, but on a day-to-day basis, you will see how decisions are made. So you will be able to understand product management and then eventually start get your mind going within this particular aspect of product management job. If you're an immigrant and you had a lot of experience in your country, leverage it. However, likely if you, let's say, immigrate to North America, don't search for senior product management positions. Same, try to find a business analyst position and then work your way up. If you want to switch a career from being, let's say, accountant to becoming a product management, then just leverage your market and industry experience. Companies who do accounting software really like hiring accountants. And this is just an example. Any company like IT, right? If you were an IT guy and you want to be a product manager, our company will value you a lot because you can contribute industry and customer knowledge directly into building the software. And of course, if you already work in tech, but in another department, then just search for opportunities within a company since some of your skills will be transferable. And this is actually the same advice. I think this is the same advice as you gave. So it doesn't change for product management, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah. I actually love the point about you going to a SaaS company that specializes in your area that you're in, like accounting or IT.
Yeah.
Because it's like I think one of the key things that we chatted about, I don't remember which podcast it was, maybe one or two ago. We talked about like the importance of just product management or product marketing is knowing the market and the customer. And you already done both. If you're already working as an accountant or a IT, you probably most likely have utilized some sort of products or some sort of solution that is in line with what we are doing here as well. It just makes it a lot easier because you understand yourself. You understand what you go through on a day-to-day basis. You understand the pain that you go through already. So it just makes it a lot easier and so transferable. So actually, I love that point because I feel like a lot of people do want to get into product management or product marketing and they're like, I'm stuck. I don't know because I don't know how my skills are transferable. I've never done marketing. I've never done roadmap. How do I get in? I think really looking at your existing experience and then seeing where you can take it. Apply to companies that are in your existing field. Like if you're in science, apply to biotech. I don't know, like, that's a great tip. I
Absolutely.
love it.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, so well, I don't know if you have any other tips because I feel like there are so many areas I want to deep dive into. A lot of times management isn't given a lot of guidance, right? It's, hey, increase the average revenue per user. I would love to deep dive on your logic and your thinking on how do we enable people to get to that soft skill if they are currently a business analyst, because I think a lot of people get stuck in those areas too. So I think we should probably do another podcast on that. What do you think?
Absolutely. It will be interesting, I think, for the entire audience.
Yeah.
And even for me, I would
Yeah.
like to have a challenge, like maybe a problem, and then think through the solution and talk about it.
Yeah, even the process of how do you go about doing it. I think those are really learnings from even people that are just starting out or people that want to get into product management. I think that's really interesting. Well, anyways, thanks for that overview. I think it was really helpful. Definitely, there's many different opportunities you can do and get into product management and product marketing. And our goal here is to make it easier. So we're giving you shortcuts. So thanks for that, Anya. But let's move on to our next segment, SaaSy Struggles. I think it's time to chat about it because I think it's still fresh in your mind. Anya, love to talk about newborn. I guess it's not newborn anymore. It's like how many weeks now?
Still newborn because
Newborn?
it's 9 weeks. I
Yeah.
guess he will be graduating from a newborn once he hits 3 months. So it's
Yeah.
12 weeks.
Yeah.
Honestly, I was trying to prepare for this episode and I was thinking back and I realized that I feel like I lived 10 years, not 9 weeks for the past 9 weeks. Because every day the schedule is different. There is no schedule, absolutely, and lack of sleep. But I think the biggest challenge for me, starting from day one till now, is that I feel like I live in a never finished day. So, you know how we all just like finish the day, we
Yeah,
go
yeah.
to sleep,
Yeah.
and we wake up in the morning and we understand, okay, it's Tuesday or it's
Yeah, yeah.
Wednesday, and
Yep.
this is what I do. Today is Friday, and I can tell you that I don't feel like Friday at all. All I feel is like it's never finished day. And this has been pretty difficult psychologically.
Yeah, I can tell you it doesn't really end until they get into a schedule. Not to scare you,
Okay.
but seriously,
When
when
when is this time? When the schedule is going to come? Wendy, tell
so
me.
it was so funny that you mentioned it that your day never ends. When I had my newborn, I remember telling my husband, I don't know if you watched that movie, Groundhog. So your day just keeps repeating. And it's the same thing over and over again. And you just like kind of forget. Did I actually do this yesterday or was it today? Like lost track of time. There's no concept of time. Seriously.
Yeah, I remember my feeling like before, oh, it's Friday, so
Yeah.
nice. I have a morning coffee at work. I can chat with my team, maybe on some fun topics. So we can
Yeah.
have a beer Friday and have a couple of drinks. Nice. It's before Saturday. Friday night is the best. Right now, it's just okay. Monday, Friday, who cares?
Yes. Yeah. I don't remember when the schedule came, so I can't even tell you that. But I do think it gets better after 3 months.
Okay.
So you have a few more weeks.
Okay. Yeah, I do wait for it, and I think another challenge which I can definitely talk about is for me personally is
Yeah.
the fact that I never know if I made a right decision in a moment for achieving my goal. So, for example, contact naps, right? Is it good to do contact naps or not? No one can tell
What
you
is
exact.
that?
Contact naps is when they just sleep on you. My
Oh,
baby
okay.
is right now like really wants to sleep on me, and I'm torn between okay, letting him sleep or continue like training him to put into crib. Like all of these decisions definitely make me anxious and overthinking. But some of the interesting moments I think is that that I realized. Number one, the fact that I'm a mom actually comes later. A lot of people kind of say, or in a lot of movies, it's like, oh, this is a newborn. It's the happiest day of my life. I gave birth to a child, and this is my child. I feel like overwhelmed with love. For me, I'm still kind of in a process of understanding that I'm a mom, that
Mm-hmm.
I'm responsible for a
Mm-hmm.
human being. I don't know. It definitely, at first, I was just like taking care of my child, obviously, every day. But it wasn't, there was no feeling that I'm a mom.
I know
And
that feeling actually. I know that
yeah,
feeling. I don't know, have your
yes, yes. So I
okay.
think when he
Yes.
started smiling, this is when I was like,
Yes.
oh my
Okay.
God.
That
Yeah.
was my realization. I am a mom. It's not just I'm taking care of another human being. I remember that like moment so vividly. That's crazy.
Yeah. Another moment was for me when I opened a book and I showed him a book and I saw an interaction that he was like, yeah, and I started reading and I see him listening, I see him responding and looking at the book, and I'm like, you're like a human being. You're not a cat, for example. Because I have a cat and my cat
Yeah, yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
respond, like
Yeah.
doesn't respond to me too much if I read to him, for example. But my son started to responding, and this was also a moment like, oh, it's my son. And another thing that I realized is that a lot of social media doesn't really talk about the newborn stage. Most of the resources available and most of the bloggers, they show the life with a 3 months old and further. But you have to really dig into social media to like understand resources for the newborn for the first three months of stage. And I don't think
Yeah.
anyone has done a great job showcasing this live. And maybe it's because no one has time to do it.
No one has time, and probably everyone wanted to forget about it.
Yeah. So if anyone is a crazy mom who wants to document every single day of their newborn, this is amazing business idea for you. Please do it. I bet you can have a lot of followers.
No, I love that. Well, what are some of the things that learnings that you have over the last few weeks? Because I know I had my own share, so I would love to hear. I think
An advice for the moms who are going through newborn, because I think I have a better advice for pregnant women, since a lot of things that I did or I do right now, I'm not sure if they are working yet. So maybe you can provide that advice. And my advice is more for pregnant women,
mm,
because as we mentioned in previous episodes, you're so focused on your delivery when you're pregnant, then you really
yes,
forget that your delivery will only last for like 2, 3 days, like maximum
yes.
3 days. But once you have a newborn, they will stick with you for another 18
Yes.
years for sure.
Yes. I seriously, this is the irony. I remember when you said you were going to these like birthing classes, and like it was for a few weeks, right? Like 6 or 7 or 8 different classes.
Yeah.
It's all about focus on your birth. So we are spending so much time focused on that one event. No one taught me how to even change a diaper. until my
Yeah,
baby was
exactly.
born. And then I had poop all over his back. Why didn't nobody tell me this?
Yesterday, I changed three outfits for my son because he had poop over his back, and it was because the diaper is too small already.
Why does nobody teach you anything like that? Like we spend what I should do after. Like I have this baby now that I brought home and there's
Yeah,
nobody to help me. There's no nurse, no doctor, no one to ask anything. And your husband or your partner is with you and then you're like, okay, now what?
I
Crazy.
know. Yes. So, if you're pregnant right now, my advice for you will be to read about three things. Number one, read about sleep. Don't hope that your newborn will be sleeping all the time during the first 3 months. For some people, it happens, for others, no. But even if your baby sleeps for 3 months, my recommendation will be to introduce sleep cues immediately. Sleep cue is like a gesture or a sound or a song that your baby is falling asleep with. Because during their first kind of week or 2 weeks, they do sleep a lot. They are much better in managing sleep. If you introduce this cue, I think you can manage further sleeping much easier. Uh, yeah.
Couldn't agree that with more. I can touch on this a little bit more. I was shocked because initially my baby was sleeping really well the first 2 weeks. I think it's the trauma from birth. So they're super tired and you're like, oh, it's real. Baby do sleep a lot. And then
Yeah.
after those 2 week honeymoon stage,
Mhm.
holy crap, all hell broke loose.
My honeymoon stage was only 1 week, so you're lucky to have two.
Yeah, 2 weeks then, yes, everything went downhill. So I can't agree more. Yeah, the sleep cues and introducing that good habits. Yeah, definitely.
Yes, also introduce pacifier immediately. Actually, I was not quite sure about pacifier. I thought that pacifier is masking a problem, but right now, and my baby was taking pacifier very well. Right now, my baby doesn't take a pacifier, and I'm struggling with this. Pacifier is a great way to help your baby to self-soothe themselves when falling asleep. So use it strategically. Don't give pacifier for every time your baby cries, but do use it. You will not regret it, I think, in the future. And
Yeah,
then
just a
another, yeah,
small caution
yeah.
for introducing pacifier. I have a lot of friends that has so much difficulties eliminating down the road. I had one friend who had 10 or 20 pacifiers on the crib because when the baby couldn't find it, they would cry and cry and cry.
Oh, wow.
And that was really crazy. And then the other thing, which my friend was struggling with, is once you get through the pacifier, is sucking thumb. That was
Oh.
really, really hard to eliminate because you can't just take away the pacifier. Their thumb is
Mm-hmm.
with them like
Yeah.
24/7. So that was really tough. I think she couldn't get him off of the pacifier or the thumb sucking until he was almost 4. He
Years
had
old?
like, so
Okay.
just be cautious.
Yeah.
I've never used pacifier, so I can't really comment. But this was
Mm.
one of the mom that I have interacted with. She thought it was helping, but at the end, I was paying for it down the road.
Wow, interesting. So now I have a
Yeah.
question to you. So you didn't use pacifier
I
at
did not
all
use
for none of
pacifier. Yeah,
kids?
I did not use
Oh, wow.
pacifier.
And they
Yeah.
still were able to self-soothe?
Well, I can walk through it in a bit of some
Okay.
of my learnings.
Okay. And then my final learning is also introduce a bottle immediately. Again, I think a lot of people will say, don't do it until your breastfeeding is established. In my experience, bottle will help you with a lot of even emotional problems
Mhm.
with breastfeeding, because when you breastfeed, you don't really understand how much milk is going into your baby's body. So sometimes just having this bottle and this extra check, hey, is my baby hungry or not, can significantly help. I don't think that baby can refuse a breast and only do bottle. Everyone tells me that, but I don't believe in it.
Yeah, my experience
Yeah.
too. The reason why I introduced a bottle was more for my convenience because I was pumping and I wanted my husband to help out. So I used the bottle quite early on. But I've known so many mom friends who introduced down the road because they're like, hey, now I'm ready. I need to go out. I don't want to be attached every 2 hours to feed
Yeah,
and, let my mom or my husband to take care of them. They can't. They couldn't because
exactly.
the baby would not take a bottle. And I remember one of my friend had was like Cinderella. An hour and a half, I gotta go because just rush back. I think introducing the bottle as soon as you feel comfortable helps you down the road because you free up
Yes.
yourself. And like you said, you know exactly how much they're feeding. You know they're not using your breasts as just soothing. They're actually
Hmm.
eating. I think that helps in general.
Yeah, and this is my goal right now because I started introducing bottle at 6
Hmm.
weeks. Then I had a mastitis, so I was just breastfeeding, and then I
Hmm.
noticed that my son doesn't want to take a bottle. So now I am back to track introducing the bottle, which is additional problem, but I have to manage it because I want to go out and I want someone else to be able to take care of my baby. And having this flexibility, even just emotionally, helps you to
Hmm.
understand, okay, if I need to be out for half a day, my baby will be safe, my baby will be fed, and someone else can take care of him or her without my involvement.
I agree.
Wendy, now as you are more experienced, I actually have a lot of questions to you. Please maybe elaborate on some of the things that I said, or maybe you have some additional tips, which honestly I'm super curious to learn as a new mom. Um,
So I don't know if it's tips, but it's more my learnings because I've gone through it twice. So I did everything wrong with
mhm,
my firstborn. He couldn't sleep through the night until 8 or 9 months. I was holding him. I was putting him in the carrier. So every nap, I was carrying him. So I had to go to the washroom with him, carrying him because I didn't know better. So with my second time, I read up everything about sleep training. There's a really, really great Facebook group that I've joined that has helped me understand what is even sleep training. The heck is sleep training? Why do you need to sleep train a baby? Shouldn't they just
mhm.
sleep?
Yeah, this is my
Like,
partner thinks, why do you
what?
need sleep training? Baby wants to sleep, they will. Baby doesn't
Yeah.
want to sleep, they will not. No, you have to do this.
Yeah, like it's like a crazy concept to
Yeah.
me. But the thing about baby, and I feel like adults sometimes have it too, when you're overtired, and babies get overtired very, very easily. They have a very, very short, what we call a wake window. So from the time they finish their nap to when they should sleep the next time around, that wake window, it can be too long.
Hmm.
Because once it's too long, it accumulates throughout the day. And then by the end of the night, they're overly, overly tired. So when I actually had my firstborn, he had where he would cry on and on with around 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. And
Hmm.
I couldn't wait until my husband comes home because I
Hmm.
didn't know what to do. I literally
Hmm.
was holding my baby and like kind of rocking, but nothing soothes him. And now, after I came back, he was overtired because I had no idea. I was waiting for him to be crying and I'm gonna put him to bed. I think we need a deep episode on just sleep training. I can probably talk
Yeah,
about for
that's.
3 days because
I
I
need
was
you to talk to me because I'm right now like struggling with all of this. Yeah,
I can
okay.
talk about it for 3 days. And I was a little bit crazy too with my twins. I documented all the wig windows because I don't want to get past it. Because
Yeah.
once I get past it, that's when like my day would be ruined, basically,
Hmm.
because it accumulates as you're getting tired and tired and tired. And then at the end of the day, it's like, but as a newborn, there are a couple of things because I don't think newborn is ready for any type of sleep training. But I feel like there are some good sleeping habits that you can introduce even in the first day. These are the three things I always mention
Hmm.
to new moms. There's a thing called day and night confusion for newborn. I don't know if your baby has it, but my theory is that most newborns love sleeping during the day and less at night. And I think it has to do with something about the pregnancy because we're always
Hmm.
on the move during the day in our pregnancy. So that kind of rocks the baby to sleep. So they're
Hmm.
so used to like sleeping in the morning. So the best way to fix this day-night confusion is to really cap the nap that you have during the daytime, maximum 2 hours. So you're feeding more during the day, and then you open all the blinds in your house. Don't keep it dark for
Hmm.
naps. You only keep your room super, super dark at night. And even when you change your diapers and do all those things at nighttime, keep it minimal. Don't engage, don't talk, keep the lights minimal, have a night light. So then they can understand, well, there's day, which you do a little more stuff, and nighttime is when you sleep. Everyone is very quiet. So they understand that concept. And trust me, I have had actually a friend of mine who had this total shift or
Hmm.
switch.
Hmm.
And yeah, she couldn't do anything during the day. As the baby was sleeping, and then at nighttime, the baby was just wide awake. So her schedule was like completely flipped, and
Wow.
she couldn't fix it until she sleep trains, which is not until maybe 3 or 4 or even five
Yeah,
months. So it's
three,
just
four
so
months.
tough. Yeah. So I don't know if you had that, but
I
that
was
was one
lucky,
of the big.
but I
Mhm.
have big anxiety that it's going to be swapped one day. I do try, like I do, like my newborn doesn't sleep very well, and overtiredness is a problem that I
Yeah.
cannot yet solve. But I am very anxious about my newborn sleeping throughout the day, to be honest, which contributes to the overtiredness. So
Yes.
I'm, yeah, in
Yeah.
this vicious loop.
Yeah, and then the other like a sleeping habit that you should introduce really early on is make sure you separate feed and sleep. So what I mean by that is they shouldn't be
This is
one
hard.
after the other. Yeah, this is really
This is
hard
very hard for a newborn.
because newborns when they are breastfeeding, they naturally get, soothed and then they naturally fall asleep after they kind of done. So the best tip I actually got from reading some literature is actually make the scheduling feed, change diaper, and then sleep. Always break it up when they're falling asleep in their in breastfeeding. Try to wake them up too. Like don't like have them sleep. This is harder than I'm saying it because I was struggling with it. I remember there were so many tips. You need to undress them, make them not so warm,
Mm.
tickle their feet. None of that really worked for me. What I did was feed, I change, I usually wash their bum as I'm changing the diapers, and that usually kind of wakes them up a little
Mm-hmm.
bit. They're not super asleep, and that helps. So
Mm-hmm.
that's one of my biggest advice. And then the last tip, try not to rock to sleep. I know this is so hard. I think you need to have a pattern where it's like you can rock, but you place them down on the crib and pat on the bum. And then
Mm-hmm.
if your baby cries, pick him up again and then do the same thing. So
Mm-hmm.
he gets to the pattern. It's like, oh, my mom won't rock me all the way to sleep. I need to
Mm-hmm.
learn how to fall asleep on the crib. They will eventually get tired with this pattern, but it's kind of learning habits of not sleeping on you.
Yep.
This is really hard. And then the other thing, which is you need to kind of separate the clutch from sleep, like pacifier or rocking or your breast. The reason for it, which I learned the hard way, is babies have this sleep cycle of only 35 to 45 minutes. I don't know why. You can search it
Mm-hmm.
up. I don't know why that is the case, but my
For
baby was
naps.
right on the dot, like 35
Mm-hmm.
minutes wide awake. So if you have these clutch or enablers, whether it's like rocking them, a pacifier, or your breast, they will look for that in order to sleep again. And that's why it is so hard to self-soothe, and that's why they will cry. And this is
Mm-hmm.
how it becomes a vicious cycle. And really, this is one of the reasons why I think we wanted to start this podcast,
Mm-hmm.
because I've learned it really the hard way. And I really wanted to share with everybody that might be going through this, pregnant, newborn, whatever, just to make it just a little bit easier. Like I'll be happy.
So how did you get out of this 35-minute cycle?
Get rid of the sleep clutch, making sure that
Mm,
you like they need to be able to self-soothe in order to connect those sleep
yeah.
cycles. So if they're looking for your breast, if they're looking for that pacifier, if they're looking for that rocking, they won't be able to do it themselves. So you need
Mm,
to eliminate it in order for them to like connect their sleep cycles.
mm,
My newborn, his nap was only 35 minutes. And then I didn't know about the wake windows. So he was overly tired. So during the day, he wasn't getting enough.
mm.
And it just became a crazy
Yeah.
cycle of getting out of it. So that's the biggest thing. Try to break up their feed with their sleep. Change,
Mm-hmm.
do something in between in order to break that up.
Yeah, and naps are harder than nights. I find that if your
Yes.
baby doesn't have the switched immune day and
Yeah.
night, at night they're a little bit better. At daytime, it's crazy. And honestly, I'm struggling with this right now. I will be honest. So we'll
Yeah.
see what strategies work.
Yeah. And then I think it's like the best tip is like look at their wake windows. Like look at that and ensure that like you're not waiting until like they rub their eyes or they start
Mm-hmm.
crying to put them to sleep, because by that time they're not ready to sleep by themselves. They need someone to help them. But if you can even like 5, 10 minutes, like shift that down a little bit and put them down and do kind of the rock and then put down on crib and pat, do that pattern over and over again, they eventually would be able to. It might take, a week or two. That's how long it took my twins to understand this. But it wasn't like I was leaving them. I think that's one misconception people have is, oh, you're just leaving your baby to cry. That is absolutely the last thing I want to do.
Yeah, yeah.
I think I just want him to be able to sleep because that's healthy for him as well as my mental health. That's
Yeah.
also important.
So it took you 2 weeks. Were you completely dedicated? Like basically, did you
Yes.
stay like 2 weeks at home and all you did was just like thinking about sleep?
I don't think I was super consistent too. Maybe if I had to go out, I'll only do in the morning and then they might nap in the car. So I think just do what's easy for you. But I think it's just set up good habits. I think those good habits like help in the long run. Ever decide to sleep train? Because having those sleep habits, setting a good foundation makes it so much easier.
Well, that's great. I wish us patience.
Yeah, and I think that's it for this week. And if you like today's episode, or if you have any questions for us, whether you're pregnant or you're approaching that birthing stage or you're in the thick of it, like Anya, the first couple weeks, we're here for you. So if you have any questions for us, feel free to ping us. And if you like this episode, please rate us 5 stars, and we'll see you next week.
See you.
Okay, bye.